Books teach us, they inspire us, they challenge us, and they expand our horizons. Books contain the best thoughts of the greatest minds in history, but the problem is, there are millions to choose from. So what should you invest your time reading? What should you spend your money on? How do you sort through all the bullshit and find the good shit? You let the superior men do the work. Matt and Jay take the best books, pick the most important points, and distill them down to a concentrated 30-minute podcast. We help you find the books you need to read and why you need to read them. You may even learn something. So take out your coffee, tea, a glass of wine, or a good IPA. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. Welcome to the Superior Men Bookcast.
And welcome back to the Superior Men Bookcast. I am your host today and always, and my name is Jay. I'm here as always, with Sir Matthew of Clark.
Always.
And welcome all of you bibliophiles, you book lovers, you, and those of you who are starting to love books, those of you who are wanting to learn more. We have a great book.
Book lukewarmers, even.
Book on the fencers.
Yes, however that is.
This book that we are doing today, The 4-Hour Workweek, Escape 9 to 5, Live Anywhere and Join the New Rich by Tim Ferriss, is the kind of book that even if you don't read books, you can still read this one because it's kind of a little bit of everything. Matt, talk to us about the 4-Hour Workweek. Give us a brief intro to this book.
All right, so this book it's interesting. So it really is looking at taking the concept of how do you make money, and from say 50 years ago, which was just you work really hard, you work your whole life, hope to get a little bit of a pension, and then you die. And your whole life is work, and that is it. And, maybe you can save up once a year to take a week vacation kind of thing. And that's definitely not what Tim Ferriss's idea is with this, too. It's really getting that concept of what retirement is, and, and kind of deferring everything off until the very end of your life until, why not do that now? So, definitely his thing is, you only work for 4 hours. That's all you do for the entire week. Well, there's some caveats to that, but
there's some caveats. But yeah, that concept of
right,
we take retirement, which everyone has for decades, for almost the 40s and 50s. That's kind of like what you do, and you get your pension, and then you kind of settle down and kind of then you start enjoying your life when you're 60 or something. Right. For the next 4 years until your body craps out. Now he's going, no, now we're doing it now.
Why not do it all like from the beginning? And how else can you do that? You can't do that if you are working a job where you get paid whatever, $20 an hour to do it or something, whatever that is. That you can't do that, because then if you're not working, you're not making money. If you're not making money, then how are you paying your bills and that kind of thing? So it's a time for money thing. And
that's the question.
Right.
So what challenges or problems did Ferriss attempt to solve with this book?
So Tim went from just working your regular job where, maybe he was making $40,000 a year and he was working 80 hours per week, which I know there's probably several of you who can relate to that. But then he wanted to switch that up, and, now he's probably making more than that, but $40,000 per month and 4 hours per week. You try to outsource as much as you can and batch things together. And, how do you take the tips and tricks of all these amazing people out there and do what they do? So.
It's all about like things that you didn't think about doing and things that weren't even possible, because this book was written in 2007. The update that I just finished reading, this is from 2009, but a lot of this stuff requires the internet, and that is something that we couldn't have done, even 15 years ago at this capacity, or even 10 years ago.
Right.
Who's going to benefit most from this book?
So anybody who wants to increase what their income is, or try to work towards not exchanging time for money. That's really going to be it. Who's not going to like this?
If you're not an outside the box thinker, and that, because a lot of this stuff is like, if you're uncomfortable with the idea of calling India up and chatting with them and potentially hiring people to do things, basically, if you've never been a boss of any kind before, this could be pretty uncomfortable for you. Sure. And if you're not willing to try stuff that's uncomfortable, in fact, I think every chapter he requires that you go and do a comfort what is it? A discomfort builder or
yes.
comfort destroyer, that kind of thing. So it's I think that it's going to be hard. Like, this is one of those books you can learn, but he is going to challenge you, and I think that's fantastic. So how about challenge for the book here? How difficult is it?
So super easy to read. But then a lot of this stuff, it's like it's really easy to read. If you were to just go through it, fine, no big deal. There's not like the concepts and the terms and stuff are not hard, but you're going to be wanting to reference and reread a lot of the information. Probably takes 8 to 10 hours to read. Audio's about 8 hours. And so what about the book reviews on this one, Jay?
It's a big one. It's a really big book. 7,764 reviews from when it first came out in 2007, 4.4 stars. And why it's not higher is a lot of people have went through and read, I don't know, maybe a couple hundred reviews. The first one's on Amazon. And a lot of people are like, this is like uncomfortable and I don't like it and it's not for me. 1 star.
You're right.
So,
right.
Factor that in. But anyway, currently number 3 on Amazon for job hunting career guides. Number 18 on Amazon for business motivation and self-improvement. Number 1 on Amazon in time management, and number 615 out of all of Amazon's 32 million books.
Yep.
So if you can be in the top 1,000 for Amazon books, especially for a book that came out in 13 years ago, 2007, that's pretty impressive. How'd you find out about the 4-hour work week?
It's funny. I actually found out about it by listening to Tim Ferriss's blog, and he had referenced it, and I was like, "Huh, he wrote a book." So
really,
yeah.
So you started with the podcast,
yeah, which I'm sure is probably backwards from everybody. So, but no, I started with his podcast. He referenced that, and I'm like, that sounds really interesting. And so I read this book probably 4-5 years ago, shortly after I had started a new position, that actually a new career path entirely. And so it was looking for time management. Really, that's kind of what I was looking at it for, was for that reason. And I've gone back to it, and there's several things that I still do. We'll talk about in a bit. But what about you, Jay?
I found Tim Ferriss also through podcasting, and from, I don't know, probably 10 years ago, people were talking about his podcast.
Sure.
He was one of the very first podcasters to go big. And now, and we'll kind of chat a little bit more about his podcast later, but his podcast has over 500 million downloads, which is
almost as much as us.
Which is right there, neck and neck with the Superior Man Bookcast and podcast.
Yeah, so don't worry about accuracy on that one.
There may be a little asterisk on that one if you look at the fine print. Honestly, I have never read this book until this week. This is the first time I actually read through the book. Now, some of the materials that I've gotten were from his stuff over the years. I've read parts of both Tribe of Mentors and his other excellent book, Tools of Titans, but I have not read 4-Hour Work Week. I've owned the book, and I've had it, and I've tried to crack it a couple of times. I'm like, this is going to be hard, and so I put it back down. And this week, forced myself, if you're going to do a book review, you should probably read the book. And
generally,
and it took me longer than I was intending because of how good the material really was. And very excited about it.
Yep.
Matt, let's do a little bit of a bio of Tim Ferriss here. Talk to us a little bit about his background.
So he was born July 26, 1977. So he's right about right in between Jay and I as far as age-wise. Grew up in New York. Graduated from St. Paul's School in New Hampshire, which was an exclusive boarding high school. So there's that. I guess he has a boarding school in common with you there, Jay.
He does. Yep. Yeah. The difference is that his parents couldn't pay for it. His grandparents stepped in.
That's true.
$60,000 a year for high school.
For high school, that's the thing.
That is the kind of thing where they really do make sure that you're wearing your your knee-high stockings and your skirt every day. Like, right. That's just a requirement.
That's just for the guys.
And that's for I was gonna say it. And the girls, they have even stricter uniforms.
They're even. So he started at Princeton, but by his senior year, he was in a, quote, very, very dark place and even contemplated suicide. He took a year off of college to teach Japanese and worked odd jobs in China. He's kind of done quite a bit already. He came back, finished his degree at Princeton, and he after that started his own sports nutrition company, Brain Quicken. He's written 5 books. This one, 4 Hour Workweek, 4 Hour Body, 4 Hour Chef, Tools of Titans, Tribe of Mentors. I've read all of those except for 4 Hour Chef. Podcast, Tim Ferriss Show, over 500 million downloads. Sorry, I can't.
I couldn't. I know. That's exactly what I heard in my head as you're talking.
I know. That's where that goes. But no, like, tons and tons of stuff. He speaks 5 languages: German, Japanese, Mandarin, Chinese, Spanish, and English. So tons and tons of stuff on here. So let's get into some of the content here. What are some of the themes here? What's our big acronym that we have, I guess? Or no, let's go into some of the other parts first.
Okay, so this is the interesting thing. This book is like a couple of different books, really. You could use it just as a kind of a motivational book, and it would work as that. You could use this as a how to build your own kind of online business, and it would work as that. It could be, this is how you travel abroad and coordinate your life about traveling or even living abroad, and it would work in that way. And so depending on where you're coming from, the book can offer you different things. I kind of like to look at it more than anything else as a way to go, how can we get you from where you currently are in your life to where you'd like to be?
Yep.
And so a big part of that is him going, first, before you start anything here, figure out what it is that you're looking for. What are you afraid of? What do you want? He talks about retirement right at the very beginning of the book and says, okay, we need to stop thinking about this concept of retirement at the end of your life, because it's not going to work. We're not against retirement, but why wait? Why not incorporate it now and do vacations and kind of like mini trips and mini retirements kind of throughout? Which is what most people want anyway. When this idea of going out and making a bunch of money, what are you going to do with the money? Well, you want to have time to use the money, and you want to have the opportunity and the freedom to be able to do what you want. So he puts together this acronym DEAL to kind of concentrate in on how to get you to get that. So what does that DEAL stand for, Matt?
All right, so that was the acronym that I was referring to, but really I want to say too, another big thing here is money is the means to get to freedom. So money is the means, freedom is the end. You're trying to get to what it is that you want to do, instead of just like, I'm just going to buckle down and not do anything and save up for this eventual thing maybe way later in my life, and I'm not going to go to Europe now, I'm going to wait until I'm 70 and then I'll go to Europe for the first time or something like that. So but DEAL, so define, eliminate, automate, liberate. Define, eliminate, automate, liberate. So you need to figure out what you want, You need to, I love it, dreamline. You really need to imagine what you want, figure out what that is. You need to get rid of all the other crap and create time for that goal that you're going for. And get rid of those processes that are inefficient. Do the stuff that is going to focus you towards your goal. And then automate whatever it is that's left. All that other stuff that you still need to deal with, but try to automate that as best you can. And this is something that I've been like a broken record with for a long time with Jay. And then finally liberate yourself physically and mentally. So then get away. So basically your thing is you want to do the thing, set the thing up, and then get the thing to work without you, whatever those are. And then go... Well, you want to go to... Now you can go to Europe for a month. Because why not? Or go to, backpack around South America. Great. Do that. Why not? Because the money thing isn't an issue. You don't have to save up for that whole thing because you're still making that money. And you don't have to... Your presence isn't needed in order for that money to continue coming in. So define, eliminate, automate, liberate.
And those four, each one of those, and we're touching him on them, just mentioning the words, but he goes into extensive detail on every single one of those things, dreamlining and how to figure out what you really want in life. He tells you, get rid of this concept of what is the meaning of life. It's a useless question. Instead, ask what gets you excited.
Yep.
So that you can start setting things that really turn you on. Big goals, and in fact, ridiculous goals are way more motivational and actually functional than small, kind of like mediocre goals.
Right.
Eliminating, doing things like a media fast, which is, most people have trouble with that right now, like especially
most people are media
right now.
Whores. They're not media fasting. Yeah.
So cutting out, cultivating selective ignorance, being stupid about stuff on purpose so that you can free up your time to focus on the stuff that matters and get rid of the stuff that is distracting you from your goals. Automating and creating an automated income stream and coming up with systems, businesses, even a side hustle that can be providing you with money, how to transition from a workplace work to a home-placed work and kind of virtually working, and then liberating and the process of that transition. Yep. So those are fantastic, and he goes into great detail on all of them.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so let's get into some of the stuff here. So what did you like best about the book, Jay?
I really liked just so many things about this book. I'm all for stuff that's uncomfortable. Anything that's going to force me to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Thank you, David Goggins, for that.
Right.
And for the person who has a certain picture of what their day and what their week and their month is supposed to look like, Ferriss's book, this book in particular, will help you take that up and just shake it really hard, and make you go, wait a minute. I don't think that all the stuff that I thought that I needed to do, I'm not sure that I need to do it that way anymore. So I'm actually really excited to start using his techniques. Like I said, I just read the book this week, and I'm already I have it open sitting on my desk right now, and I want to go back through it and start finding ways I can implement the stuff he's talking about. It's just so valuable.
Well, all right, then what are you going to go back to, or what's something that's already stood out? So what's a favorite quote that you have?
So favorite quote is, I would say, kind of coming back to what I was mentioning a second ago, this concept of excitement. He says the opposite of love is indifference, and the opposite of happiness is, here's the clincher, boredom. Excitement is the more practical synonym for happiness, and it's precisely what you should strive to chase. It's the cure-all, and that's super exciting.
It is
for me.
It is.
You think, okay, what does happiness look like? Well, it's almost impossible to define if you ask people, like, I want to be happy. What do you mean happy? He says happiness can be purchased for a cheap bottle of wine and some friends on an afternoon. There you go. You're happy. Like, you don't need anything else. But that doesn't drive you. It doesn't motivate you. It doesn't push you. Excitement will and can and does.
Well, jet ski. You ever seen somebody not happy on a jet ski?
Never.
So what did you learn from this book?
What did I learn from this book? I will say that for me personally, what stood out is this concept of having an automated system. Ferriss continually comes back and talks about this term called the new rich, which is kind of the way that you think about money, where you're going, I'm going to start leveraging the US dollar to be able to pay for things and travel and go to places and learn stuff that I wouldn't normally be able to do if I didn't leave the United States. So that's a big part of it. And having an automated system where you can really try and really focus on finding a niche or a couple of niches where you are not location based, and then you can travel and do your work from different places. And
Right.
That's super exciting to me. It's something I've always wanted to do, and he does it. And man, does he do it. This guy's traveling all over the world, and he's writing from Buenos Aires, and he's in Japan, and he's in Patagonia, and he's all over,
Right.
I love it.
All right then. Since you just read it, I love your perspective on this. Like I said, it's been a few years since I've read this, but so what do you like least about this book?
Okay, so I try not to criticize authors, and Ferriss has so many good things, but he's a marketer probably first and foremost. Like the
Sure.
dude's a talker, and one of the problems with pretty much everybody that's really really good at talking is that he's ethical, but not 100% ethical. So, for example, he advises his readers, and one point is like, if you're working on starting to tighten up your time and getting rid of meetings, he says, end meetings early, quote, end meetings early by telling people I have an important call in 5 minutes. Even if you don't have the phone call, tell them that. So he says lie, and it's a white lie, and it's not a big deal, but the goal is to let them know. Now, there's other ways that he could say that, but he doesn't. He says just basically lie to them. Another place he says, ask for forgiveness, not permission. If the potential damage is moderate or in any way reversible of the thing you want to do, don't give people the chance to say no. Ask for forgiveness, not permission. Again, is that the best way of doing things? I would say no. And even by extension, the 4-hour work week, the title of the book, the implication is you only have to work 4 hours a week. But that's only going to be possible after thousands of hours of work, if ever, depending on the kind of business that you have and depending on what you're doing. So is it possible to get to the point where you're only working 4 hours a week? He makes a strong case for it. But to say that you'll be able to read the book and then work 4 hours a week, no.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
kind of my issue with his stuff. It's good. It's really good. Just make sure in your mind that you're going, okay, how much of this is really accurate?
Yep. I can definitely see that. I think those are valid critiques on there too. So then I guess going along with that, what else, or are there any questions that you would ask Tim Ferriss?
Oh man, so many questions. Although, kind of like you had said, Matt, about the who's our guy that Tortorich, Vinny
Yes.
Tortorich.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, because Tim has so many thousands of hours of podcast, it's almost like you can find the answer to any question on there if you really want to know. But what I'd like to talk to him about is like, right now, what are you most afraid of? And what are you doing to overcome that fear? Because that's a big thing. He pushes himself outside his comfort zone all the time. So where's he at on that right now? I'd like to know.
Yeah, good one. And any related connected books that you'd recommend?
The ones that you already mentioned, Tool of Titans, which is great, Tribe of Mentors, and then definitely the Tim Ferriss Show. Get on that podcast.
Cool.
It's good stuff. So that's kind of my perspective. What about you? What did you like best about this book?
So I like the idea about I think we always chase money. Like that's what we're trying to do. That like our goal is to be at a job where you make six figures or whatever, right? Whatever dollar amount you want to put that at. But that's your goal. Your goal is to make money.
Yep.
And I like it that he uses and reframes that and puts that money is an avenue to get to what you want. It isn't what you want, or shouldn't be what you want. So it should be, and your goal should be freedom. Your goal should be whatever those things are that you're interested in. you're super passionate about volunteer work. Well, awesome. That's great. But you need to be able to do that somehow. So how are you going to still put food on your table, but continue to do whatever those things you're passionate about? Travel, whatever. So any of those things, freedom, so money is the means, freedom is the end. That theme is fantastic for me.
That's really great, because if you are only thinking as far as the money, you're looking at that paycheck and you're looking at that dollar and then getting that raise next year, or, finally getting a certain nest egg and stuff like that. If you're only thinking that far, you're really not thinking about the whole picture. So that's fantastic. That's fantastic. Give me a quote or two.
All right. So I got one, and it's good. It's what you don't do determines what you can do. And what you don't do determines what you can do.
Yeah, explain that one.
I know. So I love that one, because it really is like, what is it about what you're doing? What you're not doing is what's going to stop you from doing what you maybe can do. So if you want to be an attorney but you don't want to go to school for it, well, it's going to be really rough to be an attorney without going to law school. Or whatever. I mean, if you are really super passionate about going and traveling around Europe for 2 years, because that's what you want to do, how the hell are you going to do that? How are you going to set your life up in a way that is going to allow you to go travel around Europe for 2 years? You can't really do that any other way. So what you don't do now determines what you can do. So that's a great quote.
I like it. It's a thinker.
It is.
What did you learn from this book?
The thing that has stood with me over the longest amount of time here is batching, productivity and batching, putting things together. And just for those of you who maybe aren't familiar with that concept, is just, I'm going to take all of the things that could be like a giant time suck during my day. And one of the examples he gives is email. Those of you who work in an office job and you're checking email, you get people sending you emails all the time. That is a giant time suck in your day. It just is. So like he gave it as an example, only check your email twice a day, and put an autoresponder that comes up saying you're only going to check it at this time and this time during your day. If you were to do that and you just sit down at one time and just go through all of your emails, half the day's worth of emails, you'll get through that stuff relatively quick, and then you can prioritize it and then move on from there. As opposed to having that email always open and you hear a little ding or something changes, and now you're looking and you're going away from the thing that you're working on now, and now you're shifting gears and working on this other thing. So that's like the thing that is taken away from me, is just like putting those little things together, doing them all at one time, being done with it, and then moving on.
That's huge, and there's a bunch of stuff like that, bunch of techniques like that in the book. What you like least?
So I guess it's sort of disingenuous with the 4-hour work week, because I get it, and I think the whole thing is, a lot of times people just go, well, it's going to set up for a career. Well, what if you did something where you just had to hardly work at all and you got an extra $500 a month? Does that mean you're now retiring? No, you're not. But, what if you did 10 of those things that only bring in $500 each, but now it's 10 of them. So that's a thing too.
Okay. That's I like that critique. What questions would you ask Tim?
He's got everything on his blog. So I would just want to know, and I think he talked about it a little bit, but what the hell got him to try kickboxing and getting into a kickboxing tournament? That's just bizarre to me.
It's absolutely fascinating.
Yep. And then as far as
ask him that. And what about books? Connected books you might recommend?
Tools for Titans, just bite-sized pieces of information. I don't know. There's a lot. Any Tim Ferriss book could be great. They're all related.
If it has 4 in the title, just buy it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So final thoughts here, Matt, before we end up for today.
Yep. Read this book. study this book, learn this, even if you just want to grab some quotes or just search for some stuff on here. 4 Hour Workweek is great. It just gets you thinking about money different.
All right. The book, once again, The 4 Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. Buy it, consume it. You will be more productive. You will have more money. Your life will be better. Do it. Thank you very much for listening to the show. On behalf of Matt, we'll see you guys next time.
A reader lives 1,000 lives before he dies. The man who never reads lives only one. Thank you for listening to the Superior Men Bookcast. Share it with a friend. You heard our thoughts. Go read it for yourself.